Hi there, I'm Todd Riley with Generations Legal Group. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad you came back. This is our second video, and hopefully, what will be many weekly videos on just basic information about estate planning, Medicaid, all the things we do at Generations Legal Group. So, today I wanted to talk about the essentials of a trust. There are so many misconceptions out there, so many videos, so many things out there about trust. I just want to spend a few minutes of helping you understand what you need to think about and how a trust can affect you. And if you know me very well, I'm not big on selling trust. I don't sell trust. I provide trust if it's needed. And today we're going to talk about what is actually needed to do a trust. So, the essentials of creating a trust, key elements for establishing a legally sound trust agreement. Boy, that sounds complicated, but hopefully we're going to make it easy. The role of a trust in estate planning. So, number one, let's go back. If you didn't watch our first video, I encourage you to do that. But the whole goal of a trust is to avoid probate. You don't want to go through probate because, well, what is probate? It's getting something unstuck from a dead person's name. Very simple. You die with the house, bank accounts, investments, whatever, just in your name, no co owners, no beneficiaries, then it's stuck. The way we get it unstuck is we go to court and open up a probate, and the judge says, is there a last will and testament? And if there is, they submit it. If the will is valid, the judge does what the will says and it goes through probate. Some states, probate's very easy. A lot of states, probate is very complicated and expensive, and a trust avoids that. Okay. How does a trust avoid that? Number one, you transfer your assets. Remember, probate is for something stuck in your name at the time of your death. If nothing's in your name, or nothing is particularly stuck in your name, then you don't have to go through probate. So, one of the things we do is we transfer assets that you own into the trust, home, bank accounts, things like that. We don't transfer IRAs or 401ks because those have to be in your name, but you can make the trust the payable and death beneficiary of those accounts. But things that we can transfer into the trust, we can real estate, investments, bank accounts, insurance policies, things like that. So a trust facilitates asset transfers. It's somewhere to put your assets. The trust doesn't die when you die, so therefore it doesn't have to go through probate. A trust will protect assets. Now, for you, when you create the trust and you put your assets in there, the assets in the trust are not protected from lawsuits, um, bankruptcy, things like that, if it's a revocable living trust that you created and you put your assets into it. Now, I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but at the time of your death, your trust can leave the money to your kids in trust. And because you chose to do that, those trusts will protect the assets for your beneficiaries. So there are some very substantial protection benefits of a trust, not so much for you, but for the kids when we leave it in trust for the kids. If you have a trust, I would encourage you go look at your trust and see how does it leave things to the kids. If it doesn't say in trust, it's leaving it to them outright. And if they're going through legal problems at the time of your death, they can lose those assets. Okay. There are some tax advantages. Okay. So if you have a taxable estate, which in 2024, that's anything over $13 million, but in 25, that's probably going to change and it's going to be closer to $5 million. And so if you have over $5 million, a trust is very beneficial because we can take advantage of those tax rules in a trust to help you not pay as much in taxes. Very crucial. One of the biggest things is a trust provides privacy. Where did Steve Jobs' billions go? We don't know because he had a well drafted trust that left the money to the people he wanted it to go to, and we don't know what happened. We shouldn't know what happened. It's his money going to people that he chose. We as the public shouldn't know that. And he did a really good job, but Prince and um, Whitney Houston and a lot of famous people, we know all that's in court, all of it's going through a very public process, and they did not have a trust or a well drafted trust. But if you have a well drafted trust, it's private. Okay, very nice. A well structured trust can be an invaluable tool in estate planning, offering asset protection, tax advantages, privacy, while ensuring your wishes are carried out as intended. Okay. So The steps to create a trust. Number one, determine what you want done. Okay. You've got to sit down, either you alone or you with your spouse or significant other, whoever's going to do this trust, figure out what you want done. Number two, I suggest you have a professional decide what type of trust: single trust, joint trust, revocable, irrevocable, special needs. I mean, there's all kinds of trust out there that you really have to understand how this works for it to be done correctly. Identify who's going to be involved in this trust: you, spouse, significant other, beneficiaries, charities, whoever. Figure out what you want to do with your stuff, who's going to benefit from it now, who's going to benefit from it later. Then you need to draft the trust document so that it meets the state rules and meets your request. Then something that seems very basic, because if it's still in your name and you die, you're going through probate. So therefore you have to get it into the trust. Transferring the assets into the trust are hugely important. And our office will help you do that to make sure things are in the trust so that it doesn't go through probate. And then you have to administer and maintain the trust. I recommend clients come see us every 5 years. There's law changes, family changes, different things come up, so that come see us every 5 years, look at the trust, see what's going on, and make sure it still does what you want it to do and is based on the law. So, a trustee is the key thing here. That's the person who's in control of the trust. If you create a revocable living trust, you typically are the trustee of that trust, but there is language in the trust to say if you become incapacitated, it transfers to someone else who will manage the trust for your benefit because you're still alive, but particularly at your death. Once you pass away, there's a new trustee who will come in and manage the trust and get the assets where the trust says they should go. Choose a person who's good with money, who can manage, who's organized, not just the oldest kid. That drives me crazy when it's like, oh, yeah, we'll choose Tom. He's the oldest. Well, is he any good with money? Well, no. Okay, he shouldn't be the trustee. So picking a trustee is crucial. It's very, very, very important. And I think people don't put enough um, thought into it. Pick the person who is best, or an entity. One thing that I've started saying over the last few years is give your children the gift of a commercial trustee. Don't let any kid do it, or don't make any kid do it. Let a commercial trustee step in. They're not emotional. They can read, they understand the rules, and they will do what the trust says with no emotional input, no fights, no bias. They just do what the trust says, and it's a great plan. So I encourage commercial trustees, and we can talk about that. The beneficiaries: who's going to benefit from the trust? Probably family members, but also think about future generations. If you have enough money to survive the next generation, you need to think about the next generation. Are you charitably inclined? Do you want some money to go to a charity? Your kids have plenty of money. Let's benefit a charity. That has to be in your trust, or else it's just not going to happen. You also want to make sure, if the beneficiaries are young, you need to name someone to be in control of the money for that young beneficiary until they reach a certain age. Not 18, but 20, 25, 30. And thankfully, in most states, we can do pet trust. If you have a beloved pet that may outlive you, you can actually put money into a trust for the benefit of that pet. And people typically don't take pets when the owner dies because of the expense. They would love to have the pet, but pets are expensive. And so if you can leave the pet to someone and they know that there's a pot of money out there to pay for food and the vet and vaccinations and all of that stuff, they're more likely to do it. So we can definitely do pet trust. Now, if you have minor children, okay, one of the things we have started focusing on at Generations Legal Group is working with younger people who do have minor children. Number one, you need to have an estate plan. You need to think about this, how that's going to work. The legal procedures of that is you do need a will. With minor children, you're going to go into probate, hopefully just to decide where the kids go. A judge has to do that, and they will do it based on your recommendations. You're the parents. You know what's best for them, and unless the people you choose are clearly disqualified, a judge in almost all situations is going to do what you tell them, even if it's non-family members, because the judge is going to say, well, the parents made this decision, and so this is what we're going to do. Financial support, just kind of like the pet. People would take your kids, but man, kids are really expensive. And if they know there is financial support for those kids, they will very willingly take those kids. Sometimes the best person for your kids may not be that rich. And taking on these kids would be a huge financial burden for them, but knowing that there's a trust fund to care for these kids, problem solved. Okay. You as a parent want to help make sure your kids are educated for college or trade school or just life in general. Once they get out of your house, why should that change if you die in the process? The trust can make sure all of that stuff is paid for. Healthcare decisions, you want to make sure that you pick people who will care for your children and make the same healthcare decisions as you would in those situations. Personal values, we can put personal values in the trust to make sure that your kids know, hey, mom and dad's not here, but here's what they really thought, here's what they wanted, here's their values, and you want that instilled upon your children. And it's crucial that we do regular reviews, typically every 5 years. Look at this, make sure the kids are now 5 years older than when you first created this trust. We need to look at that and make sure that we are up to date. So, regarding charity, I love charity. There's some huge tax advantages to doing it, and it's just charities do good work, particularly, certain ones do great work. Wealth is not to feed our egos, but to feed the hungry and help humanity. That's a great quote, and it's true. Think about some charitable donations if you have a lot of money. Okay. There's some big pitfalls with a trust that hopefully we can avoid. Number one, it's not funded. So many trusts don't get funded, and we in our office will take extra steps to help make sure that your trust gets funded, because if it's not in the trust can't control it. Improper beneficiary designations. One that I see a lot is one child is disabled and on Medicaid. Well, if I leave them money, they're going to lose their benefits, and so they disinherit that child, and that child's probably the one who needs it worse than anyone. And so there are ways we can make sure your money goes to a disabled child with the protections of the money for the child, but also to make sure they still get their public benefits, but benefit from this money. So, and choosing to leave money to a child who may have a drug addict or going through a divorce or something like that, we can help make sure your money doesn't get tied up in those issues, which requires the proper beneficiary designations. We're going to encourage you to come in every 5 years. I can't make you come in, but we're going to encourage you to come in so we can periodically review your trust and make sure that it's effective. One huge thing we see is trustee mismanagement. Okay. The trustee quote goes bad on us, and we need to make sure, number one, we pick the right person to start with. And that's the oldest child. No, don't do that. Pick the person who's best at it, or skip the kids altogether and do a commercial trustee. All right. And then not taking into account taxes. Taxes can destroy your estate if you're not careful, and there's a lot of cool things we can do to protect it. The trust creation checklist. Number one, determine your goals, which will determine the type of trust that we do. Select successor trustees. It's pretty understood where the money's going at your death, but who's going to be in control of it? That's different. Is it a person? Is it a commercial trustee? We need to talk about that. Once the trust is done, we need to fund the trust. We need to make sure the things are in the trust. Kind of got these backwards. We will draft the document, obviously, before we fund the trust, but those things need to be done. And then once it's done, you sign it and it's taken care of. Okay. The importance of trust. Number one, it protects assets from creditors, not of you, but of your children. Okay. There is a trust we can do to protect your assets from your creditors, and it's a more advanced trust. It's an irrevocable asset protection trust. We can do that. We can definitely talk about it. It's a bigger step, but we can do that. And so if you are concerned about asset protection, definitely give us a call, Generations Legal Group, and we can help you through that. If you have a taxable estate or you are looking at potentially having a taxable estate, we can help you with that. We know techniques to arrange the money and make sure you absolutely minimize estate taxes. We want you to maintain control over your assets. We want you to still benefit, even if you do lose capacity without having to go to court. And that's what we do with the trust and privacy. At the time of your death, this stuff can go and be distributed, and it's not public record. It goes, the people who do it and the people who get it are the only ones who know. And that's super cool. Thank you. Okay. Hope you learned something. Generations Legal Group, Todd, Lauren, Doug, Sarah, Pearl, Trish, and sometimes Ian. He's our financial guy that can step in if you want him to, but we would love to work with you. Todd, me, and Lauren are the attorneys. We have a great staff, super fun place. We're not stuffy. We dress just like this every day. So please come see us. Give us a call, 479 601 4119. We would be honored to work with you through this process. So please give us a call. And if you know anyone else needing this, please send this to them. And again, please like and subscribe and comment. That helps our algorithm to get this information out to other people. All right. Thank you very much.